We are live, ADV in the house. My new camera that I got for my birthday. So we're in like HD land now. We're just moving on up in the world. We're going to sort out some IBS today because I've had some requests, and it's one of those topics near and dear to me because that's what I was diagnosed with when I was younger. When I was about 16, I was diagnosed with that, and I healed it. So it's a very personal topic for me. And it's also mired in a bunch of BS. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, has a lot of BS around it. In so many ways. We're gonna get to that in detail today. And so thank you for joining me. If you are looking for this video elsewhere, I will post it on my website, yummy.doctor. I will be creating some protocols, some courses in due time. There's a lot going on in my life, and I really could actually use some support right now because, and I keep everything wrapped in silk until something is created, because that's a spiritual law that I follow very dearly. So I'm not one to expose myself when there's change afoot. You must wrap everything in silk, and you must tread lightly when you're doing something monumental, which I'm doing right now. I have a Patreon account. If you wish to support me in that way, I will drop the link in the video here. I have a donation link on my website as well. It's very scary. Not usually one to be scared, but it's very scary. But it's good. It's a good scary. It's an exciting scary. It's just nerve-wracking right now, and which is an interesting segue into IBS, because what is that, and really what do we experience with the IBS? And it comes right down to stress, ultimately, the nervous system and stress. And that's the root cause of the situation, which is it legitimately a disease category? That's debated. Is it a default category that doctors love to just say, I don't know, looks like IBS? Could be, when doctors don't know what they're talking about, which is most of the time. They will come up with some story, and IBS is often involved in that story. However, I have to be honest. When I was 16 and I was having bouts of constipation, and then I would have bouts of diarrhea, and anytime I would go out in public, I'd eat something different than my usual schedule, I would get bloating and trapped gas, which was the worst. Having trapped gas is just, you pray for farting. You really do. You get to that place where you're begging God to allow you to fart, which is a very weird place to be in. And so there's something around the nervousness or the anxiety aspect, and I knew that was part of the issue. But when I went to, this is back when I still went to doctors, I must be honest, this doctor actually took the time to draw out the gastrointestinal tract for me and explain to me what was probably, or most likely, or his theory of what was happening. And now, back then, I was horrified at the farmed meat industry, dairy industry. I had being a very sensitive, highly sensitive person, I could not get past the eating of animals. I couldn't do it. I felt like a murderer. I'm just being honest. I felt like a horrible person. I was not, wanting to partake in it. Okay. And I tried to become vegetarian at age 16, like right around that time of the diagnosis, because I couldn't eat something with a face. I just once I found out how they do it, the industry itself, I was sickened. I just didn't want to partake. And of course, back then, I didn't know how to become a healthy vegetarian. I just ate bread. I ate bread. Okay. I didn't know what to eat. I just knew what I wouldn't eat. And as a result, I really overdid the carbs. So basically, if you eat plain rice and you eat white bread, you're going to get sick. And so that's what happened. Um, and in that process, I learned how to actually become a vegetarian and how to do it properly and how to eat fruits and vegetables and all these sorts of things. So that was the beginning of little old me here, was having a health crisis, having a crisis of conscience, and realizing that I had to make some changes, not having the guidance, not really knowing how to make the changes, but knowing I needed to. And as per usual, you make mistakes because that's how we learn and grow. And I messed things up in my body, and then I fixed things in my body. And it's a really powerful thing to go through when you realize the power in your eating choices. Okay. So I wasn't vegan. I was vegetarian back then. I was having cheese and egg. I was never a milk drinker, so that wasn't it. I wasn't interested in that. I think I was eating yogurt, if I remember correctly. But what was awesome for me at the time, where I wanted to get an upper hand on my life, over my parents saying you have to eat meat and this sort of thing. I got the go-ahead from the doctor. He said that oftentimes with IBS, the meat is really hard to digest, and he suggested that I go off it. I'm like, okay, perfect. Can't wait to tell my mom. So I got my way, of course. Yes, and we all are shot damaged. I know that there's a further backstory to that IBS diagnosis, which is the injections at birth. And not only that, but my mother was not supported in her breastfeeding. And that also didn't happen. I got first colostrum and that was it. So I was on cow milk, and cow milk just obliterated my gut. I had an unprecedented 2 years of colic. So screaming, bloody, murderous pain as a child. So welcome to the world. Here's pain constantly. And I know that affected obviously my gut. We know these things affect the nervous system, the 12 cranial nerves, which we will talk about, at least one of the major nerves that's included in this diagnosis or situation. And makes sense, right? You damage a cranial nerve with your injections of poison, causing mini stroke in the brain, as Dr. Andrew Molden proved with MRIs. And you damage the gut. It's classic. I mean, if you can damage the gut of all of your slaves right out the gate, what happens? Well, you're going to damage the thinking, because your gut is part of your brain, and you're going to not have a clear thinking human. And if you don't have a clear thinking human, you can easily manipulate them, trick them, brainwash them, do the mind control, like we're seeing today en masse. I mean, we're seeing a massive mind control campaign right here. I mean, the evidence is right outside your door. So obviously the agenda's worked, where they've poisoned everyone enough that they can't think their way through tyranny. They can't see when they're being lied to. They can't tell right from wrong. They can't, I don't know. They're like basically wanting to force everyone to do something really warped, this kind of thing. They're brain damaged because they're gut damaged, because they're eating poorly and they've been poisoned from birth. So I think the IBS story begins there. Really begins with the mercury, aluminum poisoning, the mycotoxins, all of these things that come through the shots, and then that causes inflammatory responses. And then you have a cortisol response, stress response in the body. And then, of course, what happens is you are in fight or flight, in a constant fight or flight mode, and you cannot digest because you're not in rest and digest phase to assimilate your food. Now, what happens when you stress eat, which is the worst thing to do? Never stress eat. I'll teach you some tips on what to do before you eat to get you into rest to digest. But if you are stressed, or you're on the run, or you're driving, or whatever, don't eat. Don't eat. It's better to fast. Drink some water. Fast. don't cause more harm to yourself. I know you need nutrients, but at the same time, how are you going to benefit from eating food when you can't really assimilate it, causing an inflammatory response in the body? Then you're going to make more wastes, and then you have to actually use more nutrition just to even deal with the mess that you just made with the inflammatory molecules. So it's better just to not. It's better just to fast in those situations. Okay. All right. So just go in the comments here. It's weird. It's like the viewers won't go up. It's like it's stuck low. I've never seen that before, where it just keeps staying at one number. It's trying to go up, and then it'll reset to 55, and it'll go up, and it'll reset to 55. I wonder what's going on there. Anyway, you know what's going on. It's called censorship. All right. So let's get into some of the nitty-gritty of this so-called diagnosis, which let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say it's a legit diagnosis. They don't maybe understand the rationale or reason for it. That's fine. We know, and I know, that there's a specific, it doesn't matter the title. What matters is the symptoms. What are you presenting with? What's happening in your body? So typically what happens in these situations is that there's a nervous system aspect. There is a stochastic problem of flow in the intestinal tract, which means that both the small intestine and the bowel are affected, and you do not have proper what's called peristalsis. So peristalsis is the movement, the massaging, the muscle pushing in a rhythmic pattern the wastes through the intestinal tract and into the bowel and so forth. And that is a nervous system trigger to do that. There's a stimulatory factor. And I found it a correlation between the colic and the IBS, because in colic, it's a similar story. You have a nervous system issue, and everything's just stopped. Basically, there's no action. It's just halted, essentially. Oh, I have to be careful. I have a new camera I got for my birthday, and when I put my hand up, it does weird stuff. I'm testing it out. I'm not sure about it just yet, but sophisticated stuff is kind of, concerning. Anyway, so if it zooms in on me suddenly or something, that means I've put my hand up in a weird way. Watch the hands, sit on the hands. So do you see that correlation? Because in the colic, there's no movement, there's trapped gas, there's bloating, right? And there's pain. And it's the same in the IBS. And I found that interesting that I had, 2 years of colic, and then I was diagnosed with IBS. So it seems to be a definite relationship there. Not to say that it's always going to be the case. Just I found that fascinating in my own story. All right. So definitely we have to consider what's gone on to the gastrointestinal tract itself, because over time, when you don't have the right nervous system stimulation, you're going to get backed up tissue damage, you're going to have inflammatory issues, and you're going to have the cellular debris, which what happens, folks, when you have dead, dying, or damaged tissue? If you've watched any of my videos on the false germ theory of disease, what's that? You get a microbiotic mess, in a sense, because they're going to come in and eat the dead, dying, damaged tissue. You can get things like candida. You can get things like, what they call SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is just them trying to fix this and you not having the capability to overcome it. That's all. So beware. You don't want to ever use something that will kill those microorganisms. What you want to do is you want to assist the process of elimination so that the microorganisms can complete their job, and then they can tidy themselves up. You don't need to ever use antibiotics. Ever, 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 never, ever, never, ever, ever use them. They are poison. They are toxins. They will not help you. Okay. These types of suppressive drugs are for people who are so ignorant and so far gone and so in the dark on their knowledge. They run to the pharmaceutical cartel, which is a magic show, which will give the illusion of that they've done something good for you, but really they've just suppressed the symptoms and caused long-term damage. But you don't see that. In the minute you see, oh, I got relief, but you don't see it in the long term. You only realize it I mean, you don't see it in the short term. I mean, you only realize it in the long term with the accumulated damage from the suppression. It's all suppression. So you don't suppress, you don't kill yourself. Germs are not your enemy. You are that. Germ means essentially like the baseline or root, like a germ, like when you think about a germospore, or like the germ is like the root, the beginning of life. It is life. So stop killing everything. It's not the answer. These are the things that come to help you, and they create symptoms. And symptoms are also not evil. Symptoms are not bad. Symptoms are the body trying to make a correction, and symptoms are trying to express things to make the correction. They're trying to heal it. So a symptom is not bad. You're trained by the cartel to think that a symptom is bad. Now, symptoms obviously can become problematic and you need to manage them. I'm not saying you do nothing. I'm just saying that we need to retool our brains to think about what's happening when we have a symptom in our body and understand that it is trying to make the correction and heal it. And it's not by mistake. It's not making a mistake. There's nothing wrong with our bodies. We've come completely intact with everything that we need, and we feed it right, and we allow the wastes to come out properly. We deal with our stress, and we will be healthy people, right? Don't need a pharmaceutical drug regime to give you anything. It will give you nothing but disease. It will never give you health, ever. Never has and never will. It never stopped anything, never prevented a disease. All lies, every last one of them. I was talking with a customer who came in yesterday, and she said one of her big wake-up calls was one of the videos where she realized that polio was a scam, that polio was not a virus, that polio was DDT poisoning. And her own mother experienced it. And it was at age 3, she was diagnosed with polio. And lo and behold, what had happened, that was when the DDT spraying of children was going on. They were saying how wonderful it was for you. DDT is good for me. And they were just, there's lots of videos where you can show that they were spraying children with DDT, and then they were diagnosed with polio, and then they made up, the same scam. They just recycled the same scam. It amazes me how blind and ignorant and stupid people are, that they cannot see the game being played over and over and over and over again for the last couple hundred years, since the whole Rockefeller, takeover of our medicine. I mean, how blind can you be to not see that they make up a fake disease? They poison you with their poisons, problem, reaction, solution, and then they make the solution, which is more of their poison. I mean, it really does boggle my mind that we're at this stage now where it's so obvious that they're doing it again, and as big as can be, because this is not about it. Obviously, it's called the Great Reset. They need to do this because they've got to move the money. They got to put everyone a passport, because that's how they're going to do biometrics. That's how they get us into the social credit system. This is how they control every aspect of our lives and survey us. This is what it's about. It has nothing to do with they don't care. You think they care about you? Holy fuck, you're delusional, man. People are so delusional. Wow. I mean, I hear some of these lefty-loosey cult blue-haired morons talk. I'm like, you are just, what happened to you? What happened to your head? The word salad that must just bullshit meter doesn't even register. I don't know. It's broken in you. Sorry, I know I'm tangenting here, but wow. I mean, to hear them like, oh, I got so sick from it. I'm in the hospital. I have heart inflammation, but I do it again. What is wrong with you? Do you hate yourself that much? Is that what it is? Is that why you have to alter your body and color your hair like pink? Because you hate yourself that much? Is that what it is? Are you that delusional? You have to cover head to toe with tattoos. You have to stick all these, studs in you. I did, I think the stud's elegant. I did mine when I took over control of my own. I did it as a very strong ritual when I said, I'm going to take full responsibility for my spiritual truth in my life. I am an adult. That's when I did that. That meant something to me. But when you put it all over you and you got the freaking the bullhorn, like you pull by that nose ring, what is that? That's mental illness. That is mental illness. I'm sorry. I know it's because it's self-harm, and it's coming from a lack of self-worth and care and self-love. And we got to get to that. We got to understand who we are, how powerful we are, and why they do this to us. Why they have created so much control over us. because they don't have this real power. They have to steal it from us. And once we realize that, they're done. They're finished. And I'm sure they're terrified that we're figuring it out, So this is why we're censored. This is why you can't even put my name into anything. Like if you put it into Crackbook and Instagram, you can't even tag me. It says it'll ban if you put my videos into Facebook, you'll get a Facebook ban almost immediately. They don't even review it. It's just if it's me, it's done. So this is how sick they are. Okay. So we have to heal our guts. Okay. We have to fix our brains. We have to correct the nervous system, and we have to overcome this bunch of lies, and we have to stop hurting ourselves, and we have to stop hating on ourselves as well. Okay. I know there's a lot of guilt and shame that we have to process. Totally understand it. I've done self-worth issues for a good proportion of my life. I understand it fully. It's not easy. And it doesn't matter if you tatted your whole body, forgive yourself and move on. Okay. I'm just saying that it's a symptom of something deeper. It's a symptom of a disconnect. This is why it's being done en masse. And this is why you see the leftist cults so sick in the head do these things to themselves. They self-harm all the time, and they think it's cool. So this is a problem. This video isn't for them. Okay, so let's talk about corrections. Let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about the main players, and then we'll talk about corrections. For one, yeah, I don't know. YouTube will always mess with my alerts. Don't worry about it. Eventually, I'm going to have live on yummy.doctor. So go to yummy.doctor and you can sign up, and you'll get the notifications when that starts to happen, because I'm not going to use these platforms forever. I just like doing lives, and this is the only way I can really do lives. They won't even let me do it on Facebook, of course. So I will have my own live platform, and I'll do it that way. So that's where I'm getting to. But for now, we use what we have until we get out of the situation. Let's talk now about what's going on with the nervous system. First of all, one of the most important nerves in the body, and one of the largest nerves in the body, is called the vagus nerve. Okay. Now, historically, it was called the pneumogastric nerve. Pneumo meaning lung, gastric meaning gut, and it's your 10th cranial nerve, or in anatomy, we'll call it CNX, 10, X for 10. It interfaces with the parasympathetic control of the heart, the lungs, and the digestive tract. All right. And it's one of your 12, essential 12 cranial nerves. So it's a major link. So just right there, think about the connection between the gut and the brain and the heart. So I've said this before, we have a brain, we have a heart brain, and we have a gut brain, and they're all interconnected. So if you're nervous, if you're nervous and your heart is racing, what is that going to do to the vagus nerve? Think about it. It's that parasympathetic control, right? What's it going to do to your digestive tract? If your body is now racing heart, or you're nervous, it's putting you into a fight or flight situation, because your blood is pumping, is telling you maybe you have to run. Maybe you have to use your blood for other things right now, not for digestion, because when you're in rest and digest, the blood goes into the gut to assimilate the nutrients. So you can only have blood in a few places at any given time. And if you're in that heart mode, then you're not going to digest well. Have you ever fallen in love and you can't eat? Have you ever experienced that? You're not hungry. It's because your heart is involved. Your heart is racing, or is more lit up, and you don't want to eat. That tells you, that's a feedback from the vagus nerve right there. So these are all your sensory functions as well. So this is your smells, your tastes, your sight, your sound. And what happens when we have, situations of autism, I guess, again, are caused by these shots and being poisoned even through the parental lineage. Glyphosate as one example, mercury as one example, aluminum is another example, and so forth. You're poisoned. The nerves are poisoned. These critical functions are not working properly, right? And so you could have a heightened sense. And we see this in autistic children, or even people who are highly sensitive people. It's too much, right? Like too many, gotta watch my hands, sorry. This is distracting. Too many involvements, right? In your reality, sound, smell, taste. I know from having a baby, but also being designed how I am, my smell is, and a lot of mothers get this after they've had a baby. I'm like a hound dog for my nose. Like I can smell everything, and it's just an upregulated sense. So this is part of my vagus nerve control, which means I have to be, in a relaxed state, especially so to make sure that I'm ingesting properly and assimilating my food. So, um, vagus nerve tonification is important. Oftentimes it will be overstimulated, and the feedback loop will just sort of make it dulled down, or dysregulated or downregulated. And you need that nerve to be working for you properly, not hyper so, but actually doing the correct stimulation. And guess what it's connected to? I've found papers I'll give you about the, here's one, vagus nerve is modulator of the brain-gut axis in psychiatric inflammatory disorders. It can make you mental. It can make you not well, right? Mentally. It oversees all these crucial bodily functions, including your mood. Okay. So this is one of our biggest evidences of the connection between the brain and the gut, why they poison us with all the fast food and the bad oils and all of this stuff out there, because they know that they can control your mood with the food, and they can keep you dull, and affect all of these afferent fibers through the brain, through the gut brain connection. Okay. And so how to heal psychiatric and gastrointestinal disorders, there's a link. And that there's post-traumatic stress disorder thrown in there. There's this refractory depression you'll see. So people have depressive disorders. It's also related to this. And the vagal tone is usually a problem, is part of the issue, but it also, there's a cytokine production inhibition. So this is a resiliency that people will not have at this point. So it also is connected to all of your inflammatory processes in the body. And you need a normal inflammatory process is vital, because inflammation is purposeful, temporarily so, and it will open up cellular tissues to allow in healing, to allow in the modulators of healing, the white blood cells, for example. It will allow wastes to be removed from the area. If you can't get in or out of an area, you can't repair it. So this is why we have inflammatory processes. But if you have in cytokine aspects, or those molecules are part of this process. So if you do not create the proper inflammatory response, you will have an improper inflammatory response, like, for example, sitting inside the bowel. Okay. And this can, and this, again, this goes right back to gut bacteria affecting your mood, and why, for example, if you're feeling anxious, you take a probiotic right away. I learned that really early on. If my daughter was feeling anxious, I would always give her a probiotic, and it would settle her down. Right. And that's a cause and effect response right there, because we know that the brain and brain stem are related to the gut bacteria and its relationship to the vagal nerve and in the inflammatory process. Okay. Now we can influence this naturally, and I'm going to talk a few ways of doing it. One, okay, if you want to write it down, or mark this part, this timestamp, this part, I will go through a list now of simple things that you can do to have a proper vagus nerve conduct, basically electrical conduct. One is there are electrical impulse devices you can use, okay? You don't need to. I'm just saying they have them, they've made them, they exist. They're, you could use, say, I have a zapper. The zapper, whoa, hello, fly. The zapper worked really well for me. It was an orgonite-based Hulda Clark zapper, essentially. I can show it to you. I think I have in some videos before. Very simple. And I would put it on my abdomen. And it would assist the nerve response and give me some relief. Okay. There's gut-directed hypnotherapy. So that's another sort of thing that can help. Like, you could even go onto YouTube and find a video that talks you through a visualization. And actually, one of the things I'm going to create is I'm going to make a bunch of audio files through different meditations and visualizations to walk you through some of these relaxations. Because when you can relax your body, then, and you've seen this, I'm sure, when you're in a relaxed state or when you're getting like energy healing done or anything hands-on healing of some sort, you'll hear the gut start to make lots of noises, like, it'll start to go because you're getting into rest and digest phase. Simple as that. Okay, so slowing down, obviously, chewing thoroughly, proper chewing. How many times? It's wild. I've seen like people who have serious esophageal disorders and serious digestive complaints. And they basically are like, they swallow their food like a snake. I mean, they just and gulp. And that's their eating. I'm like, ugh. Okay, step one, chew your damn food. And to the point where if I know this is a concern for people, I will invite them to simplify their food and already pre-digest it before they eat. I usually should suggest for one, to put them on enzymes like this one. This is a biomed enzyme called digeszyme. Because an apple cider vinegar and water before they eat, this sort of thing, to assist the process, of course, to help them through it, but also to do like smoothies or blended soups, or things that are already kind of softened and broken down more, so that they're, even if they are gulping it at that point, it's not going to be as detrimental to their health until they figure out their patterns, and that can take some time. So chewing your food proper would be a part of that. Diaphragmatic breathing. I have a really nice handout. Maybe what I can do for the diaphragmatic breathing, I'll post it in my Telegram group. My Telegram group is Healthy Dose of Truth, and I will post there. And you know what? I'll put it in my Patreon as well. Yum Naturals Patreon. I'll gift it there as well. And it's basically just a handout on how to properly do diaphragmatic breathing. It's a very specific breathing technique that employs the diaphragm and helps to stimulate the vagus nerve properly. Breathing techniques. I mean, how many times will you go to the doctor and they'll say, "Oh, looks like you have IBS. Here's a drug," or "Here's, or there's nothing we can do," that sort of thing. But they could tell you how to do diaphragmatic breathing. They could tell you how to slow down when you chew your food. They could talk about the stress in your life and how to manage that. That would be a proper doctor. They could talk about the types of foods you're eating. They could talk about how's your sleep. How are do you meditate? How do you regulate things in your life? This is what they could offer, but they don't usually. What also is interesting is if you Wim Hof methods, like using cold therapy, for example, so if you're feeling that particular stress, you can actually splash cold water on your face, and that will stimulate the vagus nerve. You can also take a cold shower or an alternating hot and cold shower, and that will also regulate and stimulate the vagus nerve tone. So that's this again, hydrotherapy, very simple path that you can take if you're not quite right. And that's simple, basically free treatment for yourself. Sound. I'm going to get more and more into sound therapy, but humming, chanting, moving, the energy, there's in all, I posted this as a meme recently. I basically said that all cultures, historically, anything that you wanted to approach as far as healing was about drumming, rattling, singing, dancing, movement, always moving the energy, always releasing, always. That was part of the healing. If you go to the healing shaman, they'll be chanting and singing at you. Absolutely 100%. That's how healing is done. Not some pharmaceutical poison. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's myopic and it's blind to think that some sort of poison suppressing a normal response from the body is going to help you. It's stupid. It's the stupidest thing that's ever been invented. And I hope with this hoax that we start to really overcome and get back to our roots and to the real knowledge and what's been suppressed and unearth it. And it comes right down to vibrational therapy, sound therapy, this sort of thing. So singing, humming, chanting, okay, gurgling, this. So these sorts of activities immediately will go into vagus tonification. Meditation will increase the parasympathetic activity and vagus nerve activity as well. Acupuncture is excellent for it. You can have a specific acupuncture protocol just for vagal nerve toning. Massaging, Okay, so on the right side of the neck, right here, so right down the trapezius area, all here, this whole region is where the carotid sinus is. There's a sinus in there, like you know what a sinus is? It's like sinus, or sinuses in the brain. Sinus like a space, okay? And you can actually massage here. If you go like that, sort of give it some slack and massage it. That will stimulate and tonify the vagal nerve, okay? So try to build some of these behaviors into your day one by one. You'll get better mood, improved digestion, your symptoms will relax and decrease. You have a better gut-brain communication, and it will decrease that visceral hypersensitivity that you can get in the IBS state. So this is a very simple, free, thing that you can do to improve yourself. Very simple. Sit and tone, sit and start singing and humming. And when I released my Sol Luckman interview, good Lord, I have to edit and finding the time. But anyway, I will soon. And he talks about using the vowels. The vowels are very powerful. So A, I, O, U, any of these tones, when you use them, can start to vibrate the different chakra systems, the different organ systems. Practice, play with it. Play with your kids. Say, let's do A. Let's just chant A for a while and like see if we can get a resonance and see what happens. Ultimately, you want to find the resonance inside of yourself and bring it out through. So you can have a practitioner do it on you and for you. And it's very powerful and very helpful. But ultimately, the goal of the practitioner and yourself is to find the resonance from inside yourself and hit that one and begin to express and heal. And you will have healing crises when you do that. There will be an emotional release when you do this work, because a lot of where this comes from and stems from is the poison damage, but also emotional suppression and emotional damage, trauma, right? Emotional shock, all of these things. I'm also going to soon teach about tremoring. I learned recently through a friend who's come in from the UK how to tremor. Went to a workshop on the weekend, or a few days ago rather, and on tremoring, how to elicit the tremor response inside of us to shake off the trauma and reset the nervous system. Very powerful. And again, something that I had learned in naturopathic college, actually, when we were witnessing a polar bear, being darted by a helicopter, which I've mentioned before in some other videos. And it really struck me because that once the anesthetic wore off, the polar bear would shake, the tremoring, the whole body would shake. And then it would continue the motion it was doing before the shot, which would be the running. So it would start to like move its paws as if it was still running. Same idea. Shake it off and then be completely normal. Animals naturally do this. Children naturally do this. And something in our culture has told us, you don't do that. If you tremble, there's something wrong with you. Or if you're doing yoga and you're trying to hold a position, you start trembling, well, that means you're weak. No, actually that doing yoga can stimulate tremoring. And the tremoring is actually part of your healing and is part of a release of the nervous system from old trauma, which you hold inside your body. Isn't it incredible? Incredible. And when you get to that truth and you get to the simplicity, the elegance of the healing is whoosh, through the eye of the needle. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, sing in the shower. You get double whammy. Cold, alternating hot, cold, and sing. And guess what? When you put that cold on, you want to sing. Usually opera. All right. So so that's some of the simple stuff you can do. Now, some of the healing. I've done gut videos before. You can find my previous gut videos, which I talk about, supplements and foods and things to help heal the gut once it's damaged. Ultimately, in IBS, you must do something about this vagal nerve and whatever resonates with you. If you want to go see an acupuncturist, by all means, if that's what feels right for you, that's what you trust. If you want to do belly singing or throat singing, by all means, have fun, right? If you want to start to self-reflect or do journaling, dance, whatever moves the energy and whatever you feel called to, because ultimately it comes down to your intuition, all of it. All of it should be self-directed. And there's not one correct path. This is where I find it very cookie cutter in the medical cartel. Everybody has to get the shot. Everybody has to get the same treatment. What's wrong with you? What the hell is wrong with you? First, just go say, my body, my choice, so I can murder babies in the womb. So then first you say that. And then it's not my body, my choice when you want to poison me with an experimental vaccine of poison and death. That's a cookie cutter size for everybody, right? To me, they just look like nutters, absolute nutters, with no knowledge or science or evidence or anything. I mean, it's just stay away from them. They're absolutely bonkers. So anyway, I'll continue to reiterate the fact that they're bonkers and batshit crazy, okay? Because there's no other explanation. They're far gone. They have no concept of individual medicine, of intuition, of facts, logic, knowledge, groundedness. They don't know what bad arguments are. They have no idea of what logical fallacies are. There's all kinds of problems with these people. But this is what happens, by the way, when you poison them to that degree and they have no heart connection. They're not loving and they do not have brain connection. This is what you get. This is the disease. The real disease is that. Okay. So let me go through some of the solutions that I found worked, and see with me, it was a multifold effect how I healed this. One, I had to get to the root cause of trauma. Okay. I had to identify what it was emotionally that I was holding inside that I was not dealing with. Two, and I actually saw a very incredible naturopath who was actually the one who I saw very first. So in naturopathic college, when you go to any medical school, there's so many hoops you have to jump through. And one of them is the interview sessions. Like at the beginning, when they're going to accept you or not accept you, there's a series of interviews. And he was one of my interviewees or interviewers. And he was, very spiritually connected. And I felt a connection with him. And then when I was going through this in year one, especially because of all the stress of med school, I went to him and I said, I need help. I don't know what to do about this. And one of the things he says, you have to get to the root cause of what the stressor is, of the emotional stressor. So I did that work. And also that was at the time I really started to get into a meditation practice, and it helped tremendously for me as well. So that's sort of where it started. And tracing it back and sort of finding root cause. And then I realized I had been poisoned and I needed to do some detoxing. So I started to do coffee enemas, as you've heard me speak of before. I started to do cleansing rituals like juicing, fasting, sweating, going to saunas. I would go into far infrared saunas and take niacin ahead of time, which creates a flushing response. So it would be extra amounts of waste coming out through the skin. These sorts of things. And then I needed to understand what I could do that took it really far, actually. Just that took it quite far. But I'd still, especially when I was nervous, or it was like you couldn't stop it with your mind. That's what it felt like. It felt like I would go out, because there was always events with med school, right? You're always going to a conference. You're always going to an event where there's little finger foods or this sort of thing. And you're a bit tense because you're always on. You're always having to have conversations. You don't know a lot of people. If you have a little bit of social anxiety, that can be a stressor. So, invariably I'd eat something. Like I would be fine on my own, but then I'd go out and I'd eat something and I would start to bloat and I'd be in a lot of pain. So I always had to bring something with me. So for those of you who are at that stage, one of the things that helped me a lot was homeopathic carbo-vegetabilis, which is a homeopathic version of activated charcoal. And I would use, sometimes I'd use a 12CH, but most of the times I would use a 30CH. And the carbo-veg is very helpful for bloating, the bloating situation. So at least what I could do is take it, go off, either if I was in a hotel, go into the hotel room for a little while, or go off into a bathroom somewhere private, and the gas would expel. I would be able to actually release it and feel so much better. And, and it was very embarrassing when, your belly starts to like balloon out and that kind of thing. And then of course you feel like you have to hold it in when you do want to release it. And then that makes it worse, right? Because you're holding. And so I found the carbo-vegetabilis homeopathic, very helpful. Just have in my purse, take if it got triggered. I also have these really great tablets that they don't make anymore, to my knowledge. I believe it was Highlands. It was a Highlands digestive tablet, and it was a combination homeopathic, and it was beautiful. It would immediately work. And like all good things, of course, Health Canada and so forth have to destroy that. So there's no longer available to my understanding. I was very sad. I held on to the last one for ages. I was going to reproduce it. I still might reproduce it. Who knows? But I do have a substitution that is similar, but it's same but different. It's a spagyric homeopathic, so it's actually a little bit even more powerful. And that's a Picana product. So if you go to yumnaturals.store and you type in Picana, this one is called ApoStum. So APO-STOM for stomach. And that one is an intracellular support that will help the cells bounce back. It helps the mitochondria. It helps basically the energy of the cell work better. So that process by which, you can put it in water, you can put it directly in the mouth, that can assist the movement forward of the gut. So you're not in that lockdown, fuck them and their terms. You're not in your gut dysbiosis or in your gut tension or whatever. It'll help move it forward. The other thing is having a probiotic. I use the 7-in-1 by Biomed often because it's shelf stable, it's easy to use, good for children, sort of like a well-rounded probiotic. That I would always have on hand somewhere. I'd always bring it with me. I remember traveling to India a couple times. If I didn't have probiotics, I don't think I would have survived it, honestly. That the CarboVeg and the probiotics were always in my purse or in my pocket or somewhere. I always had it with me when I was going through this healing process. The other thing I learned about then in school and started to employ, which had great results, because again, it was a multifold effect. You are healing and helping the brain tissue. You're healing and helping the gut tissue, and also the muscles themselves will benefit. And it's called L-glutamine. I have a few different ones. I have them also in capsules. This is a powder, amino L-glutamine powder. Everything from amino acids, by the way, has to be in the L dimer because we don't absorb the R. We only absorb the L. Just so you know, that's why there's L's on those things. So that one scoop in a smoothie I would do a day. And I would also put in adaptogens because a lot of what was happening was my cortisol from stress was high. And which, in school, in med school, you get burnt out. And the stress levels were, beyond the beyond. And you're tired and you're overworked. And adrenal fatigue is quite common in med school. And of course, that was me in year 3. I was tanked out. So I had to also learn about how to use adaptogens properly. For example, like on my website, I have this licorice root extract. It's very powerful, very potent. That's an adaptogen that helps heal the adrenal glands. Siberian ginseng, that's another one that can assist as an adaptogen. Maca root is another one. I have one called bioashwagandha. That's as a capsule, or you can get a powdered ashwagandha. Again, you could look up a list, just type into your search adaptogens and find one you like, and at least have an adaptogen in your regime, as you're healing this, because it will help regulate those cortisol levels, which can contribute further down. So you could have an IBS situation, and then down the road, you're pre-diabetic, you have metabolic syndrome, your hormones are thrown off, you can really become a real hot mess. And then you go to the doctor, what they're going to do? Cortisol, antibiotic regimes, just endless drugs. And they're never going to be able to realize where it all came from or where it all stemmed from, which is usually them. Usually I'll start it from them. Oh, what a world. Okay. So the other thing I will mention about that I talk about in gut healing as a general is to make sure that your inflammatory response is mitigated and working properly. And so if you have the omegas 6, 9, too heavy in that, you will have more of an inflammatory response that is negative rather than the full balanced spectrum, which there's tons of omegas 12s and all this stuff. But we've identified, omega-3 as an important component to that. You can get it from hemp seeds, you can get it from chia seeds, you can get it from flax seed. I like the super EFA capsules. So they're easy to take, no burp back. It's a fatty acid complex to get the inflammation under control because it's a catch-22. You need controlled inflammation to heal, but the runaway inflammation is causing localized tissue damage. So you're catapulting back into the same cycle over and over again. And this will help sort of quell the inflammatory response and get you into more of like a healing mode rather than a quasi constant inflammatory response. The other thing I used a lot and mention a lot when dealing with, digestion, the blood, and adrenals is vitamin C. I use the C Boost here. Where is it? Biomed C Boost. Reason I like that because, I don't like taking a lot of stuff myself. So I like powders because I can sneak powders into smoothies and then I get what I need and I don't have to pop pills and that kind of thing. So I like, and plus they digest better. So I like powders. I like liquids. And also, right in the mouth, we have connection into the nervous system, into the brain, right through the pan of the mouth. You have a nervous system response going on. And that tells the brain right away through the vagal system, you have food coming, start prepping the gut for what's coming so that you can accept the nutrient properly and it'll receive it properly. It's just like a reception. Oh, we knew you were coming. So that's why if you taste it, it's helpful because you're actually preparing now for proper digestion. That's why you want to chew your food long. Also, you want to break it down. But the other aspect of that is you want to communicate with the brain properly. So it knows that these types of foods are coming. Please, stimulate the gallbladder, or please stimulate the pancreas, or please stimulate the spleen, or please, get the acids up in the gut for what's coming. Okay. So that's also why I prefer that over capsules. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah. B multi. I have a liquid B complex here. It's by Sunforce. Just have to shake it and keep in the fridge. And again, it's a liquid, but it helps as an adaptogen to support the stress response. Obviously, B vitamins are across the board for nervous system repair. For example, B12 is essential in the nerves. Actually, so if you've got like long-standing IBS and you think that the nerves already have degraded, then you need to put back good fats and you need to put into your body B12 because that's crucial for repairing the nerves themselves, like functionally, the tissue. So that will have you covered at least for, what your B vitamin needs will be. And if you take it early in the day, it'll give you a bit of energy and it will help you manage the stress better so you don't feel so frazzled all the time. Especially for the menopausal woman who has cortisol levels through the roof all the time. What do you think menopausal women are like nuts? Or what I mean is like emotionally, it's really hard to regulate because you can't, it's so difficult because your hormones, for one, are not communicating properly, but two, all of a sudden your ovaries are not producing the estrogens anymore. And now your adrenals take over and have to do that job. And you're already stressed. You already have all this stuff going on. Now you've just added another stressor to the same tissue. And now the stress levels go into anxiety levels. And that's what happens. That's why you can have compassion for the menopausal woman. Now, you can correct that, of course. It's not meant to go on and on, but this is why you'll see a changeover in women when they start to go through this. Okay, I also like the sun butyrate liquid. I think I mentioned it before. That the butyrate, or even from butter, right, is very potent for helping to soothe and heal the gut when it's in its sort of dysbiosis or in its inflammatory process. That is like fuel for the cells of the gut themselves, so similar to the L-glutamine as a fuel. Fuel for the mucosa, fuel for the rebuilding of the tissue. So not only are you trying to control the inflammatory process, at the same time, you're trying to balance the microflora so it can heal the tissue properly. You also want to make sure that you're encouraging the cells, the mucosal cells, to grow appropriately, and they need the materials. Just like, I've done this analogy lots of times about building a building. You got to tear down the old building, got to get rid of the waste, you got to have the plans for the new building, and you have to build, right? And that takes resources and energy and construction workers and all of these things. And you have to have everything ready and on site for it to be done properly. And it's no different than that in the body, ultimately. And so these are fuels, these are resources that you're trying to give and encourage the body to do it. Now, none of these things are meant to be taken long-term. None. They're all meant to, as a correction for long-term damage, depending on where you're at with it. Some people find one will work over another depending on the level of degradation that has happened in their tissues. I've talked about leaky gut before. You'll get leaky gut and allergies coming from, longstanding gut problems, and that is the basement membrane coming apart essentially, or the cells being so inflamed that they're swollen, so their form is function, so the form is damaged, so is function, and you need to take zinc for that. So oftentimes I will mention zinc for if you feel that it's gone that far, the basement membrane is involved. Now there's the galt and the malt tissue and this sort of responsive tissue in the gut that gives the other feedback loops to what's going on, meaning, is there something that you shouldn't have eaten in that food? Well, they've got to identify that and get rid of it. Pesticides, for example, that sort of stuff. So there's lots of different feedback systems in the gut, and zinc can assist some of those feedback systems. There's other reasons for taking zinc as well. For proper hormone production, you need zinc to do the transmutase, like the aromatase, to make from one hormone modulation or one molecule to the next. It requires zinc as a cofactor. So there's lots of reasons for zinc, but I'm just saying that specifically for leaky gut, it is critical for healing it. You have to have enough zinc, and you have to take it with food because it can very much upset your gut. Because it's so activated in there that you want to make sure there's a bit of a buffer before you put it in. And it's about 50 milligrams zinc picolinate a day. I know there's all kinds of citrates and all this stuff, but my research shows that the picolinate is the best absorbed and utilized. And that's usually what I go for when I'm looking for some supplement or something like that. You can eat pumpkin seeds, but a lot of people, I couldn't. With IBS, I couldn't eat nut butters. I couldn't eat nuts. It was it was bad, very bad. I would lock up right away. I could not process that. I couldn't do meat. I couldn't do nuts and seeds. Automatically would put me into IBS. Terrible, terrible IBS. So I had to omit all this food. So you need to omit the foods that are causing you the problem in the first place. Usually a lot of fried foods will do it. And simplify your diet. Fruits, vegetables, salads, that sort of thing. Even salads, if they're not chewed properly, could cause an inflammatory response. I was having issues with that a little bit too, and I was frustrated because I really like sprouts, and sprouts would trigger it. So whatever your triggers are, just pay attention to it. Keep a food diary. Keep a poop diary. When did you poop last? If you haven't pooped for a day or two, you better do an enema. Just go in and get it out. Just don't let it sit there, because your blood will have to reabsorb some of those toxins, and it's a catch-22 again. You're trying to get ahead of the situation. Now you're repoisoning yourself. And the portal vein, between the liver and the large intestine will be just so filled with waste. So at that point, best to do a coffee enema or just a distilled water enema. Just gently warm it, just to a little bit lower than body temperature. Don't have to even hold it. Just get the poop out. Just help it along. Castor oil packs over the abdomen I found very, very helpful. I would do a liver castor oil pack, and then I would do an actual abdomen-based castor oil pack. About half an hour I would do every other day, not when you're on your menses. You shouldn't do it when you're on your period. And I found the castor oil, especially in the constipation phases, really moved things along. And when I had the runny stool problem, I would take activated charcoal. I would take diatomaceous earth, and it would just help sort of sop it up so it wasn't so terrible. If you have chronic diarrhea, it can cause an inflammation in the appendix, because your own bacterial colonies will run and hide in the appendix because they're being wiped out by the chronic running, diarrhea. They're being washed away. So they'll run and hide in their little house until the coast is clear. That's one of the reasons we have an appendix. So when that happens, you probably want to put back some probiotics at that point. But pay attention to your symptoms, because you don't want to be causing an appendicitis situation. Of course, from like many days of diarrhea can be something you really have to watch for, and also it can dehydrate you. So you have to be very aware of your intake of fluids at that point. So really, the only dangers I found of the system was, the chronic diarrhea can lead to dysbiosis and inflammation of the appendix, and the chronic constipation can cause obviously localized pain and all of that, but a repoisoning of the body and worsening system for the liver to actually get a hold of the issue, which of course always topical magnesium, almost goes without saying at this point. I make one with DMSO that's very potent, can help with pain. I would love for someone who actually has this to try it, because I healed my IBS before I rediscovered DMSO. So I didn't really get a chance to actually use it for IBS, but I would assume and presume that it's appropriate because for ingestion and for topical use, because it helps obviously deal with inflammation. It's an anti-inflammatory, and it helps blood flow, proper blood flow. And if you can get the proper blood flow, then of course you can get into your rest and digest phases of things, and you can also assimilate nutrients better. So I think that would be a very fascinating thing to experience and see how you feel on it, and then to use it with magnesium topically to affect the liver so that the liver is functioning optimally. This is DMSO here. This is one of them. I have Doctor's Choice, I have New Roots. These are 90%. So they won't allow sale, public sale, if it's not diluted. 10%, which is just dumb, because you can still hurt yourself with 90% technically. So, I don't know. I would say, like, if I were a regulatory body and I'm really thinking, I'll go, well, I'd say the highest we could go for the general public would be 80%. And when we do the pure sales, we put Amanda's book with it, or we'll put how to dilute a dilution chart with it properly so that people know how to actually use it properly. How about that? Anyway, never mind. I won't go on that tangent again. Okay. The other thing I found out about through Dr. Seavey was sea moss. This is sea moss. It's like an Irish moss, essentially. And what you do is you soak it. You soak about a tablespoon amount or so, or a little bit more than that. And again, when I have my Yummy Doctor, I'll have all those protocols. You could just download like how to use sea moss and recipes and stuff for that. And once it soaks, it kind of gets gelatinous. And then you take a hand blender and you whir it up, and you can make literally like a gel, kind of like an aloe gel from it. And you take a tablespoon of that a day. You can either dilute it further in water and take it, or you can take it like that. And it's nice and coating and soothing and anti-inflammatory for the system, but it also has a lot of nutrition as well, a lot of minerals. And it's not just vitamins that we are deficient in, it's minerals. And that is got your bases covered for a lot of the things that, again, when you're rebuilding systems, you want to have all the resources there for you. And that's an important resource. I don't have it on the website yet. I will put it up. The other thing I found helpful is the collagen, the pure marine collagen. Same idea with trying to support the rebuilding of the tissue so that it's not in trouble. And there's like bone broths will help, collagen gelatin, the jelly-like substances, the demulcents. I have a digestive tea I make, a blend that I make. Demulcents, raspberry leaf is in it as well, which will tighten and astringe. So that's really helpful if there's a lot of leaky gut, inflammatory problems. So again, there's many ways to get this job done. And you need to learn how to trust your body and trust yourself and start to use, I usually suggest a handful of things to begin with, one at a time, start to use them and say, yeah, that really helps me, or I really like that. Or yeah, I found some benefit, but not where I wanted to go. I'm going to add on to that protocol now and build up my system, and then give it a month and then see where I'm at. And then if a month passes and you're being diligent and disciplined with the protocol, then, reassess yourself. How am I doing? 1 out of 10, 10 being the worst. Man, I would go out and I would always get an IBS attack. And now I only had 1 this month. That's really good. I am getting somewhere with this. And so then you can either continue the protocol for another month. Again, end of the month, reassess. How am I doing? Should I wean off some of these things now? Where are my stress levels? Am I now rebuilding into my lifestyle some of the breathing techniques? Have I got that down pat? Am I doing some of the toning or other things that are helping regulate my nervous system? Yes, I am. Okay, so let me start to go off the L-glutamine now, or let me not do the CMOS this week and see how I am. This sort of thing. Now, a lot of this is lifestyle changes. You're going to make sure you're aware of these things going forward. The whole point is to teach yourself how to doctor yourself and to make sure your nutrition is in a good place. And then while you're learning about food, while you're introducing new foods again, what nutrients are in those foods. So it's always going to be a study going forward. It's always going to be like that, where you're really learning about what are these foods and what are the right foods for me and my metabolic type, and what have I improved upon and where do I still need to improve? And looking at your life like a piece of art. My spiritual teachers say, look at your life like you're chiseling a sculpture. And it's, in all directions, you have to turn the sculpture to find where the light hits everything to make sure it's refined properly, and it's like that. This is kind of earth school processes. So you can look at it, I'm trying to improve myself. I'm trying to heal. And if you keep a journal and you really reflect on that, you'll get far. Trust me. People who do that, they heal themselves. They're grateful. They're happy. They stay away from the drugs. They come off their meds. They heal the thing they never thought they'd heal. They feel empowered. This is the path. This is the way to do it. And you can, I usually launch into supplements at the beginning because I want to help people feel better and get their head, get their brain thinking first. Then they start to use the food and they start to do the lifestyle changes, and those all take time. And then you start to phase out a lot of the supplements, things that you don't need, because if you're eating properly, ultimately you don't need them, or you only need them intermittently. So you only take B vitamins, a couple times a year to reboost and get your reserves up. The rest you're doing proper stress management, this sort of thing. Or you're going into a stressful situation or your schedule changed, then you're going to need it at that time, because obviously maybe you're traveling, if we're ever allowed to travel again. Red flags everywhere, don't you think? Red flags. Can't leave. Huh. Weird. Okay. But it doesn't matter if you're masked or just you can't travel. Okay. What's going on, guys? It's sort of weird. So like almost coming up 2 years. Okay. Anywho, Happy Body is another one that I wish I knew about earlier. So it's a derivative of DMSO. It's MSM sulfur. Very, very gut repairing. If you do have parasites at that point, there's a lot of ways to cleanse parasites, but MSM sulfur in the crystalline form can assist with parasite removal and strengthening, again, all of the sulfur bonds that basically hold hands to your cells. So you have sulfur cross linkages in your cellular tissue. So if you study histology and what puts everything together and makes everything strong, just like in trees, right? You have sulfur that keeps it strong and upright. Same with our cells. The structure of the cells need the sulfur cross linkages to hold hands and create their integrity of the tissue. And so making sure that you have enough of that, not only that, but when you put in those sulfur-based compounds, and I talked about this in an article I wrote on my blog, yummy.doctor, I talk about glutathione, and glutathione disseminates graphene. Not that that's anywhere or anything. And because it increases glutathione. And glutathione is a master antioxidant that sequesters these wastes and removes them from the blood and from the tissues. And you can increase them in a number of ways. One is MSM sulfur, another is DMSO, another is actually like buying the antioxidant itself. NAC, we talked about N-acetylcysteine being used as a precursor. Coffee enemas, coffee enemas, and glutathione is massive. I mean, if you study what they found, it increases the glutathione from like 600 to 700%. It's a crazy amount. So you really get far when you serve those systems. I also wanted to mention I have these stress gummies that I really like. If you're trying to get your stress under control. I also have Picana Stabil that will help with panic attacks, that will get you regulated. So if you are hyperstimulated and you're, that frenetic energy and you're feeling like you're kind of having an anxiety attack, having the Stabil on hand by Picana, very, very helpful. And the stress gummies are helpful. It has the rhodiola in it. Rhodiola is another adaptogen or supportive to the adrenal glands, L-theanine and lemon balm and GABA. And those things are more regulatory to the nervous system, again, to get things a little more grounded and so that you're able to focus again. What was the other thing I had here? Oh, yeah. So microdosing mushrooms, you may have heard of that. I did a video somewhere on microdosing mushrooms. We're talking psilocybin. This one is the Stacks protocol. So Paul Stamets Stacks protocol. I have a 15 capsule, 25 capsule, and 50 capsule in the what's called the Neuro Blend. It's a private product. You have to email us for it and sign a form and stuff. But it's so if you want to email, contact us at yumnaturals.ca. We can get that set up if that's something you want. This one has niacinamide, lion's mane, chaga, psilocybin, sinensis, and reishi mushroom together. And it's really lovely because it helps heal the frontal lobe and the hippocampus, which are both damaged by this constant 12th cranial nerve problem, which means the higher functions of the brain are destabilized. This can turn on the frontal lobe and help regenerate it. And then the hippocampus is responsible for a lot of memory. And you know what happens when you're stressed, you can't remember stuff. So it helps you function in your memory, as well as ginkgo. I really like ginkgo biloba. I use it in conjunction with this one. When there's a lot of memory, there's a lot I have to remember all the time. And so I find that ginkgo really assists me when I'm feeling like too stressed or haven't had enough sleep or that sort of thing. Then I utilize that. And it's very, very helpful. You can get it in powder form or capsule form. This is an interesting one for inflammatory issues. This is called Google extract. Now, this is helpful for people who have inflammatory pain, like arthritis pain or joint pain, that sort of thing. It can help a lot. That's how they market it. But the Google extract, the Commiphora Google, which is from a tree resin, is actually, some resins are very healing and soothing to the gut mucosa as well. And so it can be used, again, like a lot of these things have multiple, supports for different tissue types. And I like that. I always want to, if I'm going to invest in something, I want it to do a lot of things. I don't want just one thing, or I want to see a lot from it. And so the Google extract is quite interesting to get the inflammatory response under control again, but it also serves the gut mucosa and the tissues. So the tissue support is there. So these are the sort of the go-tos that I use again and again to get the IBS situation under control, to start to think again, to then get the lifestyle factors in place and decide what's right for you, and decide, the way in which you wish to proceed, depending on, your stress levels. And really, it's super important to assess yourself, to triage yourself, to become your own doctor, to stop outsourcing your own knowledge of yourself, to sit with yourself and say, how do I fix this? What would I do? How would I be empowered to make changes in my life? What's something simple I can do today, and then tomorrow, and then the next day, that can begin to rebuild myself so that I feel stronger, or I feel more grounded, or I can stress manage, or whatever it is, and prioritize yourself. Because if you're healthy and well, you can serve others. Okay. And if you're not, you can't. And it's as simple as that. You want to help people. You want to support this world. You want to overcome the tyranny. You want to get along with others. You want to help heal this world. You have to heal yourself. I mean, it just comes down to that. It's not selfish. It's the opposite of selfish. We're taught things that if we don't sacrifice ourselves for others, then we're selfish. That's what warped mentality on the left, that the leftist cult do that. They think that self-sacrifice helps others. They're demented. It's the opposite. Actually, when they comply with lies, demented ideas, Marxism, whatever the hell idea, this communal warped idea, and they think that they're virtue signaling for everything. Oh God, it's nauseous. Oh, disgusting. Everything's a virtue signal. Look what I did for you. Look what I did for you. Look. It's warped. It's the opposite. It's exactly inverted to what you need to do. You need to focus on yourself. You need to heal yourself. You need to ground yourself. You need to realize what's truth and what's lie. And then once you're in that power position of yourself and you're in your grounded, unshakable truth, you're a force to be reckoned with. And you just walking this earth as a role model can inspire others to do the same. You don't even need to be busybody pretending you're saving the planet, which isn't even a planet. You don't have to pretend that you're helpful. You can actually be helpful for real. This is the work. This is it. It's truth becomes extremely simplified over time. Once you get through the muck of the ego, the lower ego, and you wrangle that in, and you put some of your demonic processes in the morgue, you really start to connect with your divine source, your creator, and you start to see, and you also start to be available, properly available for those who seek you, for those who wish to know. You can't push anything in these cult indoctrinated people's face. They're stupid. They're gone. They're what I mean to say is, if you start to meddle with their illusions, say you burst their illusion bubble, you push yourself into their reality and you tell them they're wrong and they're idiotic, which they are. But if you tell them that and you pop their illusion bubble, you're going to create a karmic situation for yourself. You can't do that. You just can't. All you can do, you want to make change, you want to fix this problem, you fix you. This is what you do. It's the most empowering thing that you can do. And it's what we're supposed to be doing now. And when you do that, then you're anchored. And when you do that, you're unshakable. You're brave. Your courage comes through. No one will fuck with you. They won't. They can't, because your free will is intact. You're not wavering in your consciousness. You're not doubting. You're not unsure. You're not going along to get along anymore. You're standing up for your individual nature. You're standing in your power. I don't care if the color of your skin or your sexual preferences. Irrelevant. If you are a strong, grounded person, you will know that those things don't matter, and you don't need to present them to the world. You don't need to try to convince other people that your behavior is acceptable. Because if you're trying to convince anybody to accept you for what you're doing, then something you're doing is wrong. That's projection. That's what a lot of these people are doing. We don't need pride parades and warping children's minds. You don't need to put a gay agenda in every film and movie now, just because they have to be represented. That is not, that only shows you how weak those people are and how wrong a lot of their behaviors are, right? Because they feel the need to try to force it down everybody else's throat. You will never need to force your ideas or your concepts or anything about you in anybody's face, ever. Even though the germ theory is wrong and we want them to get it, and then we want them to stop poisoning themselves, and we care, and it comes from a place of caring, it's not the way. You teach, you show, you present, and it's an offer, but they have to accept the offer. That's it. And if they come to you when you're in that space, then you can teach, and then you can show them the evidence and the logic, and have proper debate where you're not using all these logical fallacies, right? That's a meeting of minds. That's proper debate. That's proper discourse, right? Not whatever this bullshit is going on out there. Just leave them be. They're not going to see you. They're not going to hear it. They're going to believe the lies they're told, because they want to live in the illusion, because the truth is they're too fragile. Their psyches are too weak. They're weak people. They can't handle truth. They can't handle the knowledge. They feel like they'll die, which they will, because the ego will die. They're so ego identified, it seems like death to them, right? You have to understand that this is the mental capacity of these people. Their IQs are low, and they're afraid of truth because it shakes their lie apart, and they don't want to be wrong because they're egomaniacs. Can't do anything about it. They're going to walk into their own graves. That's it. They're going to take boosters and all this stuff till they're dead. That's all you can do. All you can do is stay away from it, stand in your truth, heal yourself, for God's sake. Do it. Stop poisoning yourself. Stop poisoning yourself. I still see it out there. People are like, oh, I want to go out for dinner. Well, where are you going to go? Where are you going to eat out? People are like, oh, I really want that V passport so that I can go and eat at restaurants. Why the hell do you want to? I mean, every time I do, I regret it, because I'm like, why did I succumb to that? They're not organic foods. They're full of fluoride. They use fluoridated water. They use GMO foods. Those foods are full of pesticides. They're deep fried. They're using terrible oils like canola oil or soybean oil, which are all GMO. Are they really, like, unless you can find a place that is doing that kind of food, by all means, that's where we should be at. I remember when I was younger, I'm like, oh, I can't wait till I'm older. We're going to have like organic fast food. We're going to have like healthy fast food. I'm going to be able to just go to a drive-in window and get an organic salad. That I really thought that we'd have that by now. I really did. I really, really thought we would get there, you know? But of course, the industry will not allow. They don't allow for truth. Look how long they suppressed DMSO for crying out loud. The FDA attacked it. CDC attacks it. These are evil people, you know, and the ones in the illusion, they want to believe it that somehow authority is there for them. They like that. It's an S&M thing for them or whatever. Let them be. They want to be whipped. Again, if you like to be beaten, if you want to be poisoned, if your experience is you want to have a shitty life and a hellish death, who am I to say you can't have that? Go ahead, but don't do a parade about it, because my child's not interested in those ideas. Okay. I need to protect my child's mind from your abrasions, from your aberrations, from your divorce from the divine, from your divorce and your absolute abandonment of yourself. These people are completely vacuous because they've abandoned themselves. This is the problem. Okay. I know we want to save our loved ones. I tried to. Okay. I know. I understand the place of love that you come from with it, but it doesn't work like that. Sadly, it doesn't work like that. So look at your own life, focus on it. Where are you bringing in poisons into your house? And stop. Okay. Are you using Febreze? Are you serious? Why would you do that to yourself? Do you know what that even does? It's a poison for your nervous system. It shuts down that part of your vagal nerve where you smell stuff with your nose. That's all that does. It doesn't get rid of the stench. It gets rid of your smell of the stench. Why would you poison yourself with that stuff? Those Glade plug-in thing. Glade is part, those companies are the companies that own all the chemical companies, all the pharmaceutical companies. They're the ones killing people right now. Why would you why would you vote for them with your dollar? Don't. Look at, with a fine-tooth comb now, go through your household. What is toxic? Throw it out, burn it, give it to the pharmacy for them to properly dispose of it, whatever. Do responsible, garbage, right? But it's garbage, so get it out of your life. Chemicals that you clean with, why? Why the hell do you need to do that? You don't. You don't need Raid. You don't need to kill ants. You don't need to kill spiders. You don't need to murder things either with poisons. There are always other ways to do it. Look at your lifestyle, find out where the poison is coming in, and stop it from coming in, okay? Eat your dandelions. Dandelions are medicine. They help heal your liver. You don't poison your own lawn and think that you're helping. You're not helping. You shouldn't even have a lawn. Grass is stupid. Grow food. You want to get through this? You better figure out how to grow food. I've talked about this many times. They're going to do food shortages next. They're also going to do some sort of, cyber attack game. La-di-da-di-da-di-da. So boring. They're so predictable. Ugh. Oh, they just want to destroy everything. Yeah. We know. Get on with it already, okay? Australia is in like a level 5 lockdown. Do you even understand what that means? You know what they're doing? If you haven't taken the eugenics shot or the 5G infiltration, V passport, because they want everyone on the V passport, because that's how they're going to give you a digital ID. That's how they're going to do the Great Reset. They're desperate. They need people to sign into the game. So that's why they're pressuring so hard. That's why they care. That's why they care so much about you doing it. Because if they don't have enough people in the system, they can't, it'll collapse, right? Because they're bankrupt. This is a financial reset that they're doing, and you're being used to do it so that they can get richer, that they destroy the middle class. And all you have is a dystopian nightmare coming from that. So again, look closely at your reality, start getting your money decentralized, get it out of the banks, put it into different cryptocurrencies that are stable, that are proper ones. I think Bitcoin, for the most part, is taken over now. So there's other things to look at, right? Start educating yourself therein. Diversify properly. Don't have your eggs all in one basket, because they're going to try to make you desperate so that you succumb, because that's all they've got. And you know, people, the way people are purchasing right now, they know something intuitively. They know something's coming. People are buying like 4 or 5, 6 of things at a time. I've never seen that before in my business ever. People purchasing like that. It's because they're worried. They're worried that they won't have the finances because the money will, you know, tank due to devaluation of currency, or they're going to shut down, you know, so many aspects they won't be able to get in some way or another. So people are purchasing in that way. They're prepping. So prep, don't be in fear, just prep. But just that's the answer. It's about the self. It's about refining the self. And then when you are like that, you will feel inside what you need to do. And you'll find yourself in the right time, in the right place. There'll be all sorts of beautiful clockwork style coincidences, you know, that happen in your life where like, oh, isn't that interesting? I just heard your name and now you're here, or I just thought about you, now you called, or all these synchronicities start to line up in your life. When you do that, it gets easier. You're not so busybody. You're not trying to push yourself into this world. You're living it in the flow. And that's easier on you. Just look at comments and then I'm going to wrap it up. So product sales in Canada. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, look. I have to say that on my website because Health Canada is a corrupt and evil organization that refuses to allow me to actually sell in Canada. That's how bad it is here in Canada. They will not allow me to sell the things that I make. Okay. They're safe. They're effective. They're marvelous. They're beautiful. They heal people. They help people. I get testimonials all day long. They don't want that. That right there should show you they're pushing the V on everybody. They're evil. They're fucking evil. Do you understand how evil they are? They try to shut me down every which way. So what I did is I shut myself down. Okay. I went PMA. It's a private. Everything I'm doing in Canada is private now. I have a private club. It's a private membership association. If you're in Canada and you want to acquire what I do, you need to sign the PMA document, which means you have to email contact us at yumnaturals.ca, sign the agreement, you get a consultation number, and then you may make purchases properly. And my staff will instruct you on how to do that. So relax. You can still, you know, get private things done. And same thing with my store. My store will always be closed to the general public. It will never be open again. I closed it long ago. I'm not allowing masked sheep to walk into my precious space. I will not serve the ignorant. Sorry, I'm done. My sign will always say closed. Always. I will never flip that sign again. So Fridays, I have reserved for visits. Do not just show up at my door. I will turn you away. You must have signed the PMA document in order to shop here and be here. And that's only on Fridays. That's when I take time for customers, clients, whatever. Okay. That's how it's got to work, people, because we are sidestepping the industry. We are moving aside from the public domain because the public domain is ruled by tyrants who then have contract with you and they can tell you what to do. Do not contract with the devil. So no contract. It's private. It's none of their fucking business. And that's how it is. Okay. So that's why on my website is very clear that if you're in Canada, you cannot purchase anything because it's not a purchase. It's an agreement between private parties. So it's basically like you coming to me and saying, hey, can you make me a cream? Because I have this rash. I'll say, sure, I have Nature's Skin. It's an eczema lotion. Absolutely will heal it. Okay, great. And I have a donation for that. And here's the cost. That's how it is. That's how we have to do things now, especially in Canada, where they will not allow natural things. They will not allow good things. They only support their bought and paid for evil corporations and companies. That's it. This is the evil. This is what it is. This is what it looks like. And this is how we work around it. Okay. Stay in truth, stay in integrity, and do not comply, and do not consent, and do not contract. So there it is. Thanks for asking. Colic support. I think I've done a video on colic. Haven't I? I think I need someone to categorize it. I can't even remember because I've been doing it for so many years now. I've talked about it in some of my videos. I know I have. But colic help is valerian root, and even can assist in IBS. But valerian root helps to actually tone down the nervous system when it's in the hyper stage. And a lot of the colic is almost like too much. It's hyperstimulated. My daughter had colic, a little bit of it, I think because it was like a bleed through from me, actually. Even though she's not been touched by a quack. She's never been to a doctor or hospital, ever. Never injected, never a drug, nothing. Never. Pure child. Perfect, pure child. Never sick, never has any problems. Yeah, proof's in the pudding. Anyway, she had a bit of colic, and so I learned from it. And one of the things I did was I rubbed castor oil into her belly. I did the leg pump, the fly, a leg pump maneuver. So you take the legs and you just pump them gently. Helps to move some of the gas through. I used homeopathics. What was the one? I think, well, Carbo-Veg was one of them. I'll have to think back on what I did now. So give me some time to remember what I did that worked with her. I know I would make valerian root tea and put some syringes in her mouth and the gas would come out right away. And I used Carbo-Veg, I did, but I used another homeopathic I found better. Lemon balm was also very helpful and healing. And you know what it was for me? I was eating lots of cabbage, lots of onions, lots of garlic, lots of broccoli, all from that family, the cruciferous. Excuse me. That did it. That set her off. So I had to omit foods and then she didn't get it again. So look at what you're eating. Okay. That was what it was for me. So you can try to, heal it, or you can just prevent it. Where are we for questions? Okay. Lots of conversations. Oh, lemon balm is good for hangovers. You should never have a hangover because you never drink alcohol. Shouldn't drink alcohol. Again, are you poisoning yourself? Are you doing drugs, drinking alcohol? Are you making excuses for your behavior? It's a class 1 carcinogen. You're poisoning yourself when you drink alcohol. So, if you have a hangover, you got to reflect on what you're doing. Yes, exactly. Watch what the breastfeeding mom eats. Exactly. And, all right. Any other questions? What is horseshit? Someone's saying something's horseshit. Don't know what you're talking about. The only winning move is not to play. There you go. There you go. Exactly. And yeah, they're talking about Australia. Terrible. I don't know why they've done it the way they've done it there. Exactly. It must be an interesting social experiment. Okay. Well, I know there's a lot of talk. I'm glad you guys are chatting, and I will wrap this up. I will list some of the things I mentioned, but if you do a search on my website, yumnaturals.store, they'll come up. Again, if you're in Canada, just send an email and we'll get you set up. I'll give you a Patreon link. I'll give you, a bunch of things you can look at. And yeah, soon there will be a very awesome announcement, I hope. And, remember, when you stay true to yourself and you listen to the creator and you look at your ego and you lovingly address it and forgive yourself, right? And do the healing, you will clear that karma. You will create good things in your life. You will. And I think I'm hoping that I can create my life in that manner, in that way, as a model for people. That you can become your own entrepreneur, you can become your own doctor, you can do things aside from the corruption. You can get out of the situation, and there's always a way out. There's always a way. We're always meant to achieve here. We're not meant to continually fail. So I feel that honestly inside of me, and I hope that you also can start to, bring that into your life. And please, my last thing to say, again, for allowing toxins into your life, just throw out the television. Throw it out. I don't care if you think you're watching HD TV or something helpful. The problem is that they have tech, okay, that they've put through television. That's an old patent. There's old neurosystem alterations that they can do through the flicker of the TV, okay? They can do all kinds of subliminal messaging, and it changes your brain waves. Do not succumb. I haven't watched a television. I mean, it's been over 20 years since I've had a TV. Okay. And a microwave. Stop poisoning yourself. Stop poisoning your food. Stop poisoning your mind. Okay. And you'll start to transform. Absolutely. But it's like when you walk into any home, it's like the center point. It's like the altar of a house. This black square, black cube of Saturn right in people's living rooms. You can't say you're trying to wake up and come out of the system and you're still poisoning your brain with lies and nervous system reprogramming, because as much as you want to overcome it, they're going to whittle you down with it. So just throw it out. Just stop. Why are you paying them? Just cancel it. You want to watch a movie? There's lots of free things online. If you want to study through movies, how the evil program people with their ideologies. So they put it through all the movies. All Hollywood is bought, right? It's all part of the same system. So the behaviors and habits that you think were normal, like going to a pub, watching a movie, watching sports, all of this stuff, it's over, guys. That's their system. That's what they're strong-arming people into. You get the V passport, you can go to a restaurant, you can go to the show, you can go to school. So you can go into their system to be brainwashed, poisoned, indoctrinated, and lied to. That's a benefit? That's actually a benefit? No, it's not. No, it's not. Stop doing it. Stop attending. I'm like, oh, you don't want me to? Oh, awesome. I haven't gone to a movie in a million years. And the last movie experience I had was terrible. What a crappy movie. What a waste of my time. Why would I put myself in front of your propaganda on purpose and pay for it? They've really got us good. It's time to walk away. All right. So really look at all your hygiene and your electromagnetic frequency hygiene. Okay. Get an EMF reader, read your house, shield yourself. Stop putting your face in all the devices all day long. Okay. Do a day a week where you don't touch a device. Try to do some diets of EMF diet. Okay. Where you have proper hygiene. This is the way now. Get back to in nature. Move your body, exercise, go for walks, breathe, dance, sing, get together with people. It's been a year and a half almost of this hoax. I have never done one thing. I have never done whatever they told me to do. I made sure I did the fucking opposite. You think I'm going to listen to these fucking maniacs? Absolutely not. I'd be dead. If this was real, if this was a real disease, which is not, of course, but if it was, I would be dead long ago. So would all my loved ones. I've gathered parties, togetherness, hugging, handshaking, all kinds of stuff. I touch everything. They're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. So those of us who have not complied with one thing, never put a mask on our face, never done any distancing, anti-social distancing bullcrap, we're fine. We know it's a lie. Okay. There's nothing. So we know what's going on. Those are poor mind control people. Okay. Just walk away. If it's family members, loved ones, you're going to have to make some pretty harsh decisions. And as much as I feel so upset when I hear the stories, that there was one story I heard today of a family of 4, two young children, right? Young family. Husband goes and gets the V, dies from it. And they're all shocked, right? They're all heartbroken. They're all shocked. Now there's a 7-year-old boy without his dad. Now there's a 3-month-old baby without his dad, right? Shocked. Part of me is going, well, but you walked right into it. There are decades of evidence that all these are poison. Decades and decades. And you looked at nothing. You educated yourself on nothing. And now I have to feel sorry for you. Now I have to feel sad that you broke your own family and now you want sympathy cards. It's when I look at that, I'm like, you got what you asked for. You asked for death because it's all there. All the data, all the information, all the truth is there to find. And you have a computer in your pocket and you choose to not to. So you destroyed your family. And there's the story, right? And a lot of them will still say, oh, I'll do it anyway. Again, do it again. Yeah, just wipe the earth of these people now. It's done. And though I hope those children become the new warriors, where they realize that this system killed their father, that they will never succumb to it, and that will fight it, and they will destroy this evil with all their might. Because it's time to get rid of this toxicity on every level. Every level. All right. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me today. Adore you. Thank you for doing your work. Thank you. I know it's not easy. I really see you. I really appreciate what you're doing. This is not a design for snowflakes. All right. Snowflakes can't handle this. Okay. So I see you. I acknowledge what you're doing. Keep going. Never surrender. Never give up. It's worth it. It is. In the end, you will be glad that you did this hard work. You will. Just write it down if you have to remind yourself every day. But you're worth it, and this is worth it. This is major change, and we are going to get it done together. And if my Telegram group is Healthy Dose of Truth, if you're in my province of Ontario, I've created another Telegram group called Ontario Awake. It's a resource group. We do gatherings. We are talking about chickens and eggs and farming and all kinds of aspects of animal husbandry, where we get things, who's awake, who homeschooling, talking about raising our children healthy, all kinds of stuff. So that's a great group for that. And we will see you again very soon. God bless you all. Thank you again. Thank you for your support of me. I'm looking forward to sharing really good news with you, and any financial support that you can toss my way. Now is the time. And I hate asking for anything like that. You know me, but if you want to make a purchase that helps, whatever, because holy mogoly. I will have stories. Oh my God. I can't wait to tell you what I've been going through. You will be mind blown, but I've learned a lot. I'm learning a lot. And wow. So important times for this yummy gal over here. And we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.